This is Taiwan's most famous roller coaster, and there's a good chance you've seen it before in some viral videos. It's called Gravity Max. It was the world's first tilt coaster. It was manufactured by Vekoma and opened in 2002, over 20 years ago. Up until recently, it was the only Vekoma tilt coaster in the entire world. And for years, it was the big reason why I wanted to visit Taiwan so I could experience this one-of-a-kind attraction. I finally had that opportunity in fall 2024 and made the hour-and-a-half drive south of Taipei to the Lihpao Resort to Discovery World. They opened their doors in 2001, only home to a couple roller coasters and a handful of rides, a rather small park that's part of a larger complex, home to an on-site hotel, shopping mall, water park, and this massive 400-foot tall Ferris wheel. Together with all these other attractions, you can make a full day from the resort, but as it stands, Discovery World is a really small park and not worth more than a couple hours. During my particular visit, it was absolutely deserted. We went on a weekday in October, schools were still in session, the park was open daily, but we were some of the only people in sight. And it made for an interesting vibe. There's something unsettling about being some of the only people in a theme park, and granted, we did go during very unusual circumstances, just a couple days before a big typhoon was supposed to hit Taiwan. And while I'm sure that was absolutely a driving factor for why the park was so empty, we were at Lihpao Village near Taipei just the day before, and that park was plenty busy. And all it took was a quick look around the resort to realize, I don't think the typhoon is the only reason people aren't here. Discovery World was in a very dilapidated state. A very dirty park that clearly hadn't been well maintained, and when you combine that with the fact that there was no one here, and many of these attractions weren't even operating in the first place, it felt like we were walking around an abandoned theme park. And for the park that's home to the most famous ride in the country, I was shocked at what I saw. During this particular visit, Taiwan was just one part of a larger month-long trip across Asia, visiting other locations like Japan, Hong Kong, and mainland China. And of all the theme parks we visited, Discovery World was easily the worst, despite the fact that the potential was there. So what I'm going to do today is run through the core problems with Discovery World and how to fix them. Because clearly if the park has survived 25 years of operation, at one point or another they must have been doing well, but for whatever reason they've allowed the park to get to this very unfortunate state. So we'll give a little bit of context. The Lihpao Resort is located just outside of the city of Taichung, about 20 minutes from the Taichung International Airport. Lihpao Discovery World is on the left side of the resort. When you park, you'll get this big view of their on-site hotel. To the right is that water park and shopping mall. There's a couple of restaurants and businesses as you walk up to the entrance. And once you pass through the front gate, we just have a small circle layout. The entire property is only about 28 acres in size. Aside from Gravity Max, they're home to a Vekoma Junior coaster called Mayan Express, actually decently themed. A small Ferris wheel that's included with your visit should you not choose to pay extra for the larger one next door. There are two water rides, a set of rapids next to the mine train, and then a log flume. This ride actually surprised me a bit. It had two turntables and a backwards drop. It was the perfect amount of wetness. Not as good as the log flume at Lihpao Village, but still good fun. My favorite quirk about it is that as you exit, they have a bunch of hair dryers set up, so you can pay for that like you would a family dryer. Though considering how hot and humid it gets in Taiwan, not sure that's really necessary. They had a little top spin, a set of swings, and frankly, not much else. Though thanks to RCDB, I can see that in 2025, they added a set of human-powered kiddie coasters. Probably the smallest roller coaster I've ever seen. Someone pedals a bike to pull the vehicle up a lift hill. And there's no way an adult could fit in that because the whole thing is probably like 5 feet tall. Very interesting addition and not what I expected for the first new coaster in over 20 years. But what we found was that many of the existing rides at Discovery World were just flat out not operational. Not sure if it was due to staffing, annual maintenance, or the rides had just been closed for a long time, and frankly, I wouldn't be surprised with any of those scenarios. The park was clearly not in great shape. The pathways were very dirty. The entire park is colorful, but everything is very faded. The only thing that looks fresh is Gravity Max. That's the one section of the park that actually looked good, and I wish they had given the rest of the property the same treatment. There were several old, rusted buildings that clearly were abandoned and existed purely as eyesores in the property. There was decent theming at times, but it looked like they hadn't been taking care of it. And when you're a park this small, you have to make a big impact. And they absolutely do when it comes to Gravity Max. But aside from that, they aren't delivering on pretty much anything else. The The only other part of the park that looked well taken care of was this small waterfall area in the center. Actually looked pretty nice, which makes me wonder if it might be one of the newer areas that they've actually been able to give a little attention to. And if that wasn't enough, even the rides that were operational that day struggled to open when the park did. And so if you got here right at the beginning of the day, you're walking around a really creepy, rundown park with like nothing to do. So it really was like the worst case scenario, and it makes me sad. I'm a lover of theme parks. I hate seeing theme parks in this state. So here's what I would do to fix Lihpao Discovery World. Some of these will be cheap, relatively affordable changes. Others will take a little bit more investment. I think the first step is to add music. Let's help give the park an adventurous atmosphere. When we visited, it was dead quiet. You're walking around a theme park with no noise at all whatsoever. That's not how you create a lively atmosphere. Next, I would make sure that your current attractions are operational. If the park opens at 10, let's try to have everything open at 10. Any buildings or attractions that you have standing but not operating, get rid of them. Even if you don't have to replace them, at least then we don't have to look at them. We can plant some new grass or something. Which then brings me to new landscaping. Let's beautify this park. Taiwan has some amazing scenery. Let's make sure that the inside of the park matches the outside. I thought the foliage around Gravity Max looked great. It'd be nice to have that everywhere. Next, we're going to order a whole lot of paint. Let's refresh this park. If you have buildings or structures that haven't been painted since the park opened, let's revisit them. Make the whole place look shiny, and I'm including redoing the pathways with that statement. You can see how many of these paths have like colorful designs, but again, it's just not well taken care of. And then finally, we're going to invest in some new attractions. Some eye-catching flat rides, even if they're simple. And if, in this scenario, we're able to add a new roller coaster, I think what they need to do is bridge the gap between kids' rides and the extreme thrills like Gravity Max, build an intermediate roller coaster. Even something with a tire-driven launch would be great. This is clearly not a big budget park. There are intermediate options that would work well here. Zamperla is known for having some of the most affordable rides in the business. Let's get a package deal with a couple of their flat rides and a family coaster. And if you were able to do all that, I think Discovery World would have a much more welcoming atmosphere. And if you're struggling to get people in the front gate before, now you might have people that will want to stick around and be more likely to return. Word of mouth is important. Gravity Max managed to catch the entire world's attention, but if Gravity Max wasn't here, in its current state, I would not recommend Lihpao Discovery World. But because they happen to have the most famous roller coaster in the entire country, yeah, if you're a fan of roller coasters and thrill rides, this is kind of a place that you gotta visit. So Gravity Max is the only reason that I recommend this park. And if you want to hear more about Gravity Max, I do have a full separate review of that attraction already up on the channel. So please go give that a watch. But as for Lihpao Discovery World, it made me sad to say that I wasn't a fan. I didn't get great vibes. I think it's clear that they're struggling financially, or the owners maybe just aren't driven to make improvements or investments into the park. And I can't blame people for not wanting to visit. Taiwan's a small country, and they actually have a decent amount of theme parks, some of which are only about an hour away. I'd be more likely to recommend one of those instead. But you can let me know down in the comments below, if you've visited Lihpao Discovery World, what was your experience? Do you agree with the points that I brought up? And if you visited more recently than I have, let me know if you've seen any new changes implemented. I think some of these simple ideas could go a long way. But if you're new to the channel, I would also love if you could check out the Park Reviews playlist. I've reviewed properties from all over the world, and they're all organized in alphabetical order by the park's name. So go see if some of your favorites are on there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.